Hi, I'm Brack. Yeah, g'day. It's I, Brack the War Boss here once again, and you've probably been living under a rock, or like have just poor Wi-Fi, to not realise that GW is re-releasing an old favourite, Zodgrod Wartsnagger. Now, I haven't been in this hobby all that long. I'm a bit of a novice, only 11 years, so I'm a bit unsure who Zodgrod was. So I've done a little bit of research, and this video I'm going to be showing you what I found and also give you my thoughts on what I think of this new model. And it's coming up pretty soon. Zodgrod Wartsnagger is an infamous runt herd who was perhaps the greatest runt herd in Orc history before being expelled from war boss Ugelhard Duthgrunter's charges, an extremely fundamentalist band of snakebites who rapidly rejected the use of advanced technology. After the expulsion, Zodgrod travelled the galaxy and learned several ancient Orcoid techniques to create enhanced Gretchen who were possessed of more aggression, intelligence and sheer ferocity than any of their counterparts, which he named Super Runts. Zodgrod is now hired by Orc warbosses and warlords who are particularly desperate to make use of his Super Runts in battle. Zodgrod's first job was to be the runt herd in charge of breeding snotlings who would eventually end up being fired from a shock attack gun as living ammunition. Zodgrod proved to be unusually effective in training his Gretchen to follow orders and act aggressively. His Gretchen, known as Commando Runts among the charges, became quite well known among the local greenskin tribes. However, also unusual for an Orc, Zodgrod became fanatically protective of his simple-minded trainees' well-being, a situation that turned bloody after Zodgrod fired a mech through his own shock attack gun for mistreating the Gretchen who served as his ammunition. For this action, Zodgrod was banished from the charges by order of Ugelhard Duthgrunter himself, for his recklessness had nearly cost the charges their victory in battle. Zodgrod took to the space lanes with his beloved Gretchen as an Orc freebooter, selling his service as a runt herd to any war boss or warlord who could pay his fees, and thus existing on the margins of what could pass for Orc society. During the course of his wanderings, Zodgrod came across the writings of another Orc runt herd named Narflung. Narflung had performed experiments upon his Gretchen until they displayed increased intelligence, aggressiveness and coolness under fire, becoming a formidable military force when they worked in concert. Narflung called these Gretchen Super Runts, and the techniques he had used to produce these results were Pavlovian, involving a lot of bell ringing and reward of a fat juicy squig. With this information in hand, Zodgrod soon created his own breed of Super Runts, and he began to hire them out as an effective combat force to many Orc tribes and wars. Most traditionalist Orcs believe that the idea of Gretchen who are fearless and competent warriors represents a horrible threat to the very fabric of Orc society. But many other Orc leaders who find themselves in desperate straits will not hesitate to hire Zodgrod and his elite Gretchen. Surprisingly, they have proved to be a potent force multiplier on the battlefield for whatever greenskin force is willing to employ them. Okay, well, there is the history of good old Zodgrod. Let's have a look at him. We've heard his history, and this is what he's up to now. He's a bit of a scraggly looking beastie, isn't he? You know, this model looks like someone has gone through the wars, or maybe the wars, and he's definitely Yeah, he's a freebooter, so there's probably times when things were tough, and he may have need to sell his own teeth because there's not that many left. Now, I'm not quite sure what the law says about teeth growing, or the rate of teeth growing as they get older, but he's meant to look like he's a little bit older here. So, and the squeak, I do like this squeak hair. It looks more rattly. He sort of reminds me of a certain war boss I used to know that used to have long hair but hasn't anymore. The skin, the old raggled skin. Now, Steve-O mentioned Iggy Pop. I'm thinking he's more like Keith Richards, but that's up for debate, I suppose. And we've got this we've got this cyborg leg here, so bandaged foot, and he's looking really straggled. So, yeah, I like it. I really do like it. There are a lot of people out there that are a bit unsure, and they are preferring. Yeah, there are some people who don't like it for a lot of reasons, but after talking to a few of these people, it seems to be that they knew what the law was and they loved the old model, and they still like the old model. So let's have a look at the old model against the new model, and see if we can find some sort of let's do a little bit of comparison analysis from my perspective. Right, so here they are, two side by side, and we'll just focus on the old Zogwart. Yeah, look, he's a pretty looking model. But I think that what he suffers from is that he is a design of the last century, and it's all very comical and cutesy, and GW have obviously gone with a new design aesthetic, and that's not that. So let's just have a look. I've got some notes here about the pros and cons. So what do I like about the old Zogwart? Well, as I said, he's cute, he's got character, and he seems like a fun model. It would have been a nice model to paint and to play with in the days. But yeah. Cons, look, as I said, design of the last century doesn't really fit into where Games Workshop is going. Now, depending on it, you can either think that's a good thing or a bad thing. That's entirely up to you. Metal's a bit hard to work with, so even though you probably wouldn't want to do much conversion work or kit bashing with that model, it'd be really, really hard, and only for an expert hobbyist. And those Ugg boots, they're little boots, really, what this reminds me of is an old Aussie surfer in his 50s who's a little bit hung up on the 80s. Now for the pros and cons of the new model. Now, I couldn't find that many cons. I really like it. There's probably some biases because I really, really love this model, and the only really thing that I can find that really is that the lack of posability. I'd be very surprised if he comes with any extra options. I suppose that this grabbing claw / poking stick is probably what you're going to get, and it might be a little difficult if you want to kit bash. You might, if you've got novice hobby skills, this is probably not the model for you to practice on. As for the pros, look, I just like everything there is about the look of this. He tells a story. It is a design of the 21st century, and they're sticking with GW are sticking with a narrative, and I really think this going well. And honestly, I think the hair is better. Now, I'm probably going to get in a lot of trouble for saying that, but it's a hair squig. I can't see how anyone back in the day could have such neat hair squigs. According to the law, they're prone to get bored and fall off. Now, that's some good some hair squig training. Whereas these guys have been around for a long time. They've got his dad. They're obviously finding something to feed off. He probably hasn't had a wash or two, so there's probably lots of parasites there. And then one falls off and gets replaced by a smaller one. And I really like it. I love this hook too. But I really like it. And that's about all I can say on the matter. Alright, well, sort of closing remarks. Now, what I want to say about this, like, I like the design, but I'm going to hold off the judgment until we find out what the rules are like, and hopefully we may see that in about 2 weeks' time, because they promised in the Here We Go that they would do some talk about an old character, and I think this is the one that they're talking about. So hopefully we'll see some rules, see what he can do. Will he be buffing Grots? Is that a powerful weapon? What is his weapon skill like? What's his ballistic skill like? He's obviously going to be a HQ unit. And how do I say that? Because we've got a little bit of proof here, don't we? And this is from the release. Speaking of leaders, you may have noticed a particularly conspicuous gentleman with a rather wild crop of hair hanging around. And Zolgrod Wardsnagger is one of a rare breed. So they're just saying he's a leader. So HQ. Has to be HQ. But what will his skills be? By using un-orky practices as a positive reinforcement. So, Gretchen, Zolgrod lifts the runts under his care to heights other Gretchen can dream of. Well, I think he'll definitely be used to buff Gretchen. If he's going to be on the field, I'm thinking there's going to be some sort of rule that will turn Gretchen into super runts. Or maybe we just might see a new type of Gretchen model. That'd be nice. That'd be really, really nice. I don't think they'll replace the old Gretchen, but I wouldn't be surprised that if we see a Grot version of the Beast Snagger Boys kit. So we'll have a slightly bigger, better Gretchen or Super Runt. I love the name Super Runt. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. So, what did you think? Do you like the model? Are you like me? Do you love him? Or do you just despise him and want to burn it with fire? Put your comments below. Or are you sitting on the fence? Do you want to wait for the rules? What do you think? What do you think would be a good rule set for good old Zolgrod Wardsnagger? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, subscribe and share. And if you haven't pressed that notification bell, you can do that too. If you'd like to help me out financially, because I'm sort of doing this as a bit of a full-time gig at the moment, then there's always Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee. The links will be below in the description. Alright, time for me to total off, so I'm going to leave you one more bit of advice, and that is, if you're going crumpin', remember to bash early and bash often.